Hello. Let's do the ringing. Okay, so we're going with Pagan. So we're at the festival. Pagan, they're all settled in. Pagan's going to go have a look around. Pagan left the campsite in pursuit of an old friend. The main area of the festival was called a bazaar, and it resembled a vibrant and culturally rich market area. Hundreds of paper lanterns hung from tall wooden poles, which would be lit up at night to help witches shop and walk back to their campsites after the entertainment had finished. Beside each pole sat a tub of paints and brushes, encouraging witches and their guests to decorate the poles. Ladders were leant against the poles for guests who were not afraid of heights to climb up to the poles and continue painting. Witches used their broomsticks to reach the top. Already the poles were covered in snakes, rainbows, and ancient symbols. The conformity of the large rectangular and square tents was broken up by enormous multicoloured teepees that already housed workshops, meditation, yoga, new age spells, modern witches, modern time forums, costume making, and hugging and laughing appreciation. The list went on. Some witches had not wasted any time finding the drug tent, swallowing pills immediately. Evidence of their altered states of consciousness only enhanced the ambience of the bazaar as they sat on maps conversing about the world's troubles or danced uninhibitedly along the bazaar alleys. Buskers gigged in front of food tents. Hurdy-gurdies, violins, harps, accordions, foot drums, sitars, and cowbells blended to form an erotic melody. The smells of freshly prepared Tasmanian foreign dishes made Pagan's mouth salivate. She stopped and bought a bottle of home-brewed beer and a bowl of labneh and hummus served with pita bread. The beer tasted foul, but her Middle Eastern cuisine was sensational. Determined to find the gypsy cart, she ignored the heckling from the shop's owners. She knew the infamous gypsy cart would be parked close to the coordinators and volunteer campsite. Spotting the sign VIP area, she changed her free-flowing walk into an unwavering stride. Pagan unlocked the gates to secure the VIP area and entered. A bunch of hippies sat slumped around the fire pot, soaking up the late afternoon sun and sipping red cast wine. Pagan waved. The hippies enthusiastically waved back, calling out "Hola" and "Bonjour." Pagan laughed, "G'day." Walking behind the shower facilities, she spotted the gypsy cart. It was splendid. Its large brown horseshoe-shaped canopy was securely mounted onto a darker brown trailer. Golden engraved engravings decorated the exterior, and a close look revealed intricate carvings of the Kama Sutra. Amused, she ran her fingers along the contours of the engravings. The 4 large wagon wheels buckled under the weight. The internal clutter was hidden by a heavy green-coloured curtain at the entrance. Finding nowhere to knock, Pagan climbed the 3 steps and entered. Her friend Aquarius was levitating a metre off the ground and seems to have fallen asleep. Almost 6 foot and 7 inches, Aquarius's doppelganger was Jesus with his soft, pretty features and long, unwashed and uncombed hair. Pagan had met Jesus on one occasion. He had been a little dramatic, but good sort of a fella. Creeping slowly up behind Aquarius, she tackled him to the shag pile carpet that cushioned most of the impact. Aquarius raged until he saw Pagan grinning down at him. "Gorgeous ninja, you took 40 years off my life. Aquarius, as if you had 40 years left anyway." When Pagan left the VIP area, it was dark, and with the help of the paper lanterns, she navigated her way back to the bazaar, tripping occasionally due to the small holes and loose rocks. Turning northeast, passing a row of pop-up restaurants, she craved solitude before returning to the campsite. Minutes later, she stood on a small wooden bridge on the edge of the bazaar. The sound of the running creek calmed her as she soaked in the night air. A sword swallower and a contortionist performance only amused her for a few minutes before she set up the hill towards the allure of the sitting tree, where she would hopefully find solace. The sitting tree stood 100 metres high. It contained so many secrets that had oozed honey-coloured sap that, if you listened to, hissed stories from ancient Tasmania. It took 42 steps to walk around, which she did every time she visited Jackie's Marsh. Pagan found sitting on one of its large roots, caressing its mossy purple coat, soothed her, and she was sure she could hear Gaia breathing inside of it. The smell of the rainforest filled her lungs as she climbed higher, but it was his scent that really took her breath away. His scent was everywhere. Struggling to walk up the forest path quickly enough, his scent enticed her to move beyond her physical discomfort. Finally, she reached the clearing. Squinting, she could see him. The sitting tree's foliage hid him, but his scent was unquestionably unique. His muscular body slumped against the base of the tree as if he had been waiting for her, as if he had known she would be there. Serendipity leaving her unprepared caused her stagnation. Insecurity made her stumble as she walked towards him. He must be 45 now, but he looked the same to her. His exceptionally long, dark hair was half tied up above his head and the rest fell over his chest. He wore nothing but blue denim jeans. His feet were bare. When he ignored her presence, she panicked that he might have been waiting for someone else. What if he had forgotten her? Surely not. Composing herself, she approached him with eyes that searched for any signs of recognition from him. He watched her approach and wondered why he hesitated. Pagan had been fierce. I'm sorry, I've got low battery. I can't pop you in, so I'll go see if you stop, you stop. Composing herself, she approached him with eyes that searched for any sign of recognition from him. He watched her approach and wondered why she hesitated. Pagan had been fierce when they met. Surely life had not dulled her. Kneeling before him, her hands reached out to touch his face. His olive skin felt leathery underneath her touch. His pouty red lips and dark eyes were more potent than she remembered. Grey hairs now glowed off on his chest. "It's been a long time, my friend," she smiled. He placed his hands over hers. They were freezing cold. "I've missed you, little witch." His Israeli accent aroused her. She desperately wanted to kiss him, but anxiety limited her. Slipping her hand into a loose trouser pocket, she pulled out the golden bell and rang it. Tristan Dante smiled, graciously accepting the bell. The main festival event occurred on Saturday morning, but Friday night's opening ceremony was eagerly anticipated. Huddling around the campsite, Ainley, Ruby and Peony sat dangerously close to the firepot, soaking in the ambience. Pagan's absence was felt as the three of them struggled to find common topics of discussion. Pagan had always been a free spirit, even at the inconvenience of others. A leader, she hated to be followed, despising the responsibility and the neediness of others. "Where is Pagan?" Peony probed. The question amused Ainley, who was aware of Peony's disdain for Pagan. "Don't fear, once the festivities begin, she'll be back. She would never miss a party." Ruby interrupted, breaking from her solemn disposition. Pagan is probably looking for someone to give her bell to before all the good ones are taken. Peony snorted into a drink. Pagan certainly was a slut. Lost in thought, Pagan wondered who she would give her bell to. It had been 7 years since she had rung a ceremonial bell. "I'm sure I'll find cobwebs, it's been that long." Ruby laughed and then felt instantly guilty for her moment of happiness. Sinking further down into a chair, Peony rolled her eyes. "I can't believe you are seriously going to ring your bell. What if you get an STD?" Witches were immune to human sexually transmitted diseases, and Peony knew this, so her question had obviously been a snide verbal remark. "Maybe, dear sister, if you took the prunes out of your mouth and the lemons out from your vagina, you could get laid as well." Avoiding eye contact, Ruby wondered why Peony had come to the festival, as she never enjoyed herself and her negativity impacted the entire group. An awkward silence followed. Focusing her attention on the upbeat vibe of the surrounding campsites, Ainley soon recharged her batteries. "I wonder why Roberta and Don didn't come." All she wrote was that Don had club commitments. Her brother-in-law Don was spending most of his spare time at the club lately, and Ainley wondered if her sister's marriage was under some strain because of it. Ainley shifted her attentions to Ruby, who had aged considerably over the last few weeks. Black shadows as large as tea bags sat underneath her eyes, highlighting the dullness in her stare. Flaking skin indicated dehydration, most likely from drinking alcohol every night since Hensley's witch awakening. Some maidens coped with their witch awakening and others did not. Hensley had not coped, and now she was at home, alone, mulling over the event. Not that Emily cared for Hensley's well-being, but instinct told her that Ruby should have stayed home with her daughter. A loud explosion from over the hilltop frightened the campsite occupants, and everyone stood up to investigate. Relief followed when Aquarius's face was projected into the night sky, almost taking up 1/4 of the dome ceiling. The crowd applauded with excitement. The opening ceremony was about to begin. Aquarius's marine blue eyes sparkled as if he'd just poured several drops of dilating liquid onto them, his pupils twice their usual size. Emily doubted Aquarius's eyesight was anything but blurred. He would do anything for an impact. The projector screen expanded, revealing Aquarius's attire: a black top hat, a long black 18th century double button jacket, and trousers to suit, accessorized with a black furry scarf and John Lennon glasses. Welcome, horny witches, execrable men, and deplorable bitches. Aquarius's voice ricketed around the dome parameters. Holding both his hands above his head, he pointed towards the sky. I declare the 2010 Samhain Festival officially opened. Pulling his hands down like a football referee indicating a goal, Aquarius added with a wink, like your legs, witches. In unison, over 4,000 pairs of feet stomped on the ground. The ground moved underneath them. The next explosion lit up the skies. Hundreds of performance witches appeared, dressed in all black attire, hovering for a second before opening their red handheld umbrellas, which they positioned in front of their bodies as they slowly floated to the ground. The cluster of red umbrellas formed a new projector screen, and images of the crowd enticed more clapping. Witches waved at themselves as they saw their own faces highlighted on the screen. Two gigantic golden balls, fizzing like sparklers, bounced 10 meters at a time towards the crowd. The crowd automatically reacted by hitting the two balls back up into the sky. They crossed the crowds at tremendous speeds. It was hard not to enjoy Aquarius's dramatics, but Emily questioned his motives. There was something about Aquarius she did not trust, but for tonight she would enjoy his antics. The next morning, Emily was feeling considerably healthy, considering she had danced until 1 a.m. and drank copious amounts of alcohol. Persuading an unwilling Peony to party had been the exhausting task, leaving Emily feeling restricted by her sister's lack of momentum. At 10 o'clock, she had eagerly encouraged Peony to retire to bed so she could fully enjoy herself. Submitted to instant karma, drumming had kept Emily awake for most of the early morning. Peony had slept a sound 8 hours. Someone should shoot those fucking drummers, she had snarled at 4 a.m. It was time to worship the sun god before he disappeared for winter. If there was one god Emily happily worshipped, it was the god that promised warmth. Since Gaia had fallen asleep, the goddesses created masculine forms of themselves called divinities to do the mundane activities such as maintain the quality of the sun. They were workers whose job it was to maintain the functionality of nature. Emily crawled out of the tent, missing her comfy bed. Her hips were already seizing up. Naked bodies sat indiscriminately around the campsites. It did not take Emily long to join them. Stripping nude and relaxing to a ritual state, the sun divinity instantly massaged her aching bones. After 1 hour, Emily had dressed and walked to the bazaar. Today she would shop, eat, drink, and find some stupid fool to give her bell to. Spoiling herself by buying a new dress to wear for the night's festivities, she left the first shop pleased with herself. Purchasing a Strega drink from Faceline's tent, Emily wandered along the bazaar until she stumbled across a nude storytelling tent. The book being read was Alice in Wonderland by Lewis Carroll. Peering through the tent entrance, Emily was not surprised to see it was full of men, women, and witches. Slipping through the entrance, she sat down at the carpet in the back row. The audience was slumped over each other like lions in the hot afternoon sun, stroking and caressing the body next to them. The effects of an eventful night of partying had left everyone sluggish and uninhibited. Attracting minimal attention, a couple gently fucked in the kneel and sit position in the third row. Internalizing their passion, they did not make a sound, which only added to the sensuality in the room. Sitting on a newly upholstered antique armchair, the nude reader was an exceptionally beautiful and voluptuous woman, at least a size 18. The combination of her self-confidence, perfectly proportioned body, large hips that equaled her hefty breasts, naturally geisha-coloured skin, long blonde hair set in the 1940s wartime style, large sultry cat eyes, and the way she curled her lips around the spoken word mesmerised the audience. Lost in the pulse of the reader's heartbeat, Emily ignored the person who sat down beside her. After a few minutes, the stranger whispered into Emily's ears, "Wow, you're beautiful." Emily pushed her hand up against his face and pushed him away. Instantly moving closer to her, his musk stick breath blew gently on her cheek. Raising her right eyebrow, she faced the young man. "Now you're just pissing me off." He looked like the character from Storm Boy with his bleached blonde hair and sun-kissed skin. His body was firm from his youth and his smile symbolic of a charmed existence. Emily held an unamused glare. Ever heard of shade? You'll look like an old leather couch when you're older. With confidence, he leaned in even closer, face to face, and whispered, "I've been watching you, and I would like you to give me your bell. I think a witch like you could make me feel closer to God." Emily held her composure and whispered back, "Firstly, I give you music points for quoting 9 Inch Nails, but you lose points for being a creepy stalker guy. Plus there wouldn't be anything in it for me. There is a reason why young boys are for young girls." Turning away from him, she sipped the strega. Waiting until she put the drink down, he grabbed her hand, kissing the back of it. His lips tickled her skin as he spoke. "I think you'll change your mind because your mind knows I'm young, but your body doesn't." Emily was amused, but only mildly. So I'm just going to stop it there at 17 because I'm a bit concerned about my battery. So I need to charge it. So let's go back to when we started today, which always makes me laugh because I can never remember where I've started. So we started with Pagan, and she's gone and said g'day to this old friend very quickly, but she's concentrating on meeting one person at that festival, someone she hasn't met in a long, long time. And this person obviously means a lot to her. So we don't know how much, and we find that out as we go through the story. And then she's gone up to here. Now, for me, this is the soulmate connection for me. This is where I had this Dante character, Tristan Dante, which was named by one of my good friends, Mickey. It encompasses the longing for somebody that you know that you can never have. It's the person that you know you have an amazing intuitive connection with, but they're not yours and they'll never be yours. And you know that you have to live an eternity knowing that this person will never be fully evolved in your life, so there's always it always feels more intense when you can't have something. So this is that section. Dante is that person that is so incredibly empowering. So he's not Pagan's soulmate. Remember that her soulmate, the person that she keeps getting reincarnated with, is Gore. So and we don't know where Gore is at the moment. Where's Gore? And I'm taking the piss a little bit out of soulmates, because imagine every single life you ever spent was with the same person. What if they were dickheads? What if you were eternally stuck with a dickhead? And wouldn't it just get boring if they were good? So, it's important that we feast on other souls, and then we have these relationships with other souls. And so Dante for her is a choice. It's someone that she would choose to spend her life with had she got the chance. And of course, she hadn't. So, you know, it's very important that she's met up with this person because one, they've never spoken about how she feels towards him. And then, so we've got here Emily, you know, she's off. She's doing her own thing. Her sister's so annoying. We all know what it's like when you take someone who's just a misery guts and you want to have a good time. So, you know, she's got a misery guts sister running around just, and you feel like, why did you even bother coming? Just go home. We've all had those people. And, you know, I think it's interesting that I chose Alice in Wonderland for the story being read. I can't remember from memory if this is because it actually was Alice in Wonderland that was being read that day. So this actually happened at a festival. And I think it might have been at Jackie's Marsh, actually. There was a reading tent. No, everyone was dressed, but people were very loungy. They were lounging on each other and just in a real comatose, relaxed, sleepy state. And I did sit at the back, and the woman that read, I have described her perfectly. She's actually, or was, a burlesque dancer, and she danced at my winter solstice charity event that I co-organised with some friends years ago. And she was that beautiful, like breathtakingly stunning, like, and such a big build, like everything was so beautiful and everything just worked, and she was gorgeous. So she was reading, and it may have been Alice in Wonderland. If she wasn't reading Alice in Wonderland, I'm not surprised I chose Alice in Wonderland because it is a story, you know, of many interesting topics. I don't want to get into them now, but, you know, if you don't know about Lewis Carroll, he had a little bit of an obsession with, you know, Alice, like, and so this, you know, he's created this story with Alice. Like, it's a little bit, how are you going? You got to question it a little bit when a very grown man has a bit of an obsession with a very young child. So I'll just go forwards. No, so we're going to leave it right there, just at 21. So it's a nice quick one today. I'll see you in the next one.